Hello, class. Today is kind of a break from classical music because we are going to talk about musical theater. And some of you may be thinking, wait, does musical theater count as classical music? Kind of, because it has its origins in classical music. But I want to cover it because it's a distinctly American form of music and often involves the full symphony and people singing. If you love musical theater, you're going to love it. If you hate musical theater, you're going to hate it. If you're not familiar with it, you may decide that you like it, maybe you won't. So we'll see. So let's talk a little bit about musicals in general. What do you expect to see, right? You expect to see singing because it's a musical. Maybe dancing, you might expect. Spoken dialogue. Those are kind of the things that people expect to see musical theater in a musical. I just went and saw The Hunchback of Notre Dame just a few nights ago, and I got to see all three of those things, right? So let's watch a scene and tell me if it's a musical.
What's the secret? What's the secret? Who can tell? Perpetual because unpredictable as well. How to keep them? That's the question. Keep them faithful? That's the trick. And there's such a mix of attributes. A man has to take his pick. There's some who need a lot of wooing. Lots of this and lots of that. Endless being, endless cooing. Lots of this and lots of that. There's some prefer a man who's rougher. Lots of this and lots of that. Feeling of to make them suffer. Lots of this and lots of that. Oh, whiny ones are always crying. Lots of this and lots of that. And suddenly their fists are flying. Lots of this and lots of that. And some require expensive dresses. Lots of this and lots of that. And some who need precise caresses. Lots of this and loads of that. Who can tell what the hell women are? Women! But completely bizarre. Women! Endless compartment and farce. Why can't they be more like us? From a wonder, a bundle of toy. Women! A monster who wants to destroy. Women! I'm as a minx or a child or a sphinx. Who can tell what the hell she thinks? Women, who can tell what the hell women are? Oh, so sweet but completely bizarre. Oh, that endless kerfuffle and fuss. Why can't they be more like us? From a wonder, a bundle of joy, to a monster who wants to destroy. When the wild as a beast, or a child or a sphinx, who can tell what the hell she thinks? Who can tell what the hell women are? Women, completely bizarre. Women, endless kerfuffle and fuss. Women, they be more like us. From a wonder, a bundle of joy, to a monster who wants to destroy. With the wild as a beast, or a child or a sphinx, who can tell what the hell she thinks?
So this is from the opera, The Merry Widow. There's dancing, there is singing, and there's also spoken dialogue. Spoken dialogue is kind of the thing that we think, oh, that's a musical. But this is from an opera. So, kind of thinking, how is the singing in musicals different from opera? Is it different? Just kind of keep that question in your head. So, let's talk about stage performance through 1860. Up to about 1860, all stage performances actually included music and or singing. So even Shakespeare's plays had music in them. Remember, we listened to Sigh No More Ladies, right? Hey Nani Nani? That was lyrics written to be composed in a Shakespeare play. Like, you could write whatever music you wanted, but it was meant to be performed. So it was very typical to have music in a play rather than having a play without music and singing. So around 1860, playwrights actually began to write plays that didn't include music, but this was actually a new thing. So just keep that in your head, right? You could go watch a play and see music all the time. In the 18th and 19th centuries, there were many types of musical entertainment, all of which were performed as what we call popular music, right? There were several kinds of shows that were created just to entertain. So they focused on the music and dance numbers, giving little or no importance to any kind of coherent plot. So here's a really fun clip from Vaudeville, 1925.
And little Lily was always a silly young shy, and all the fellas knew she would not be a coup. Every single night some young fella would try to call her up the world, but she would cry, "Oh ma, he is making eyes at me. He is awful nice to me. Oh, he is almost breaking my heart. I am beside him. Mercy, let his conscience guide him. He wants to marry me and be my honeybee. Every minute he gets bolder, always leaning on my shoulder. He is kissing me. Oh, ma, he is making eyes at me. He is awful nice to me. Oh, ma, he is almost breaking my heart. I am beside him. Mercy, let his conscience guide him. He wants to marry me and be my honeybee. He is a fetish just like jelly. When he left, he shakes his shoulder. He is kissing me. There we go. Met kakkeltje. Pasje met dieren.
Yeah, so that's a singing duck, right? Just really entertaining, no emotional experience except for amusement. So another kind of show that was created just to entertain were minstrel shows. And we have a clip to watch of Gregory Hines, who is a very famous Black singer and dancer, and he has only recently passed away. And he's talking about minstrel shows. So let's give that a listen.
After the Civil War, the most popular form of entertainment was minstrel shows, minstrelry. It was strange. It was very strange. It was white entertainers putting on blackface, which was burnt cork. They would set some cork afire, and then they would put it on their faces, and their faces would be black. They would go on stage and impersonate black people. They would sing like black people. They'd talk like black people. They were very popular. People loved those shows, white audiences. Later on, as the years went by, black performers who couldn't get on stages any other way began putting on blackface. They would put the cork on their faces. They'd go out and perform. The audiences would think they were watching white performers. At the end of the show, the black people would take the burnt cork off. The audiences would see that they were black performers, and that by that time they would have accepted them. These were performers who didn't want to pick cotton. They didn't want to work in the fields. They wanted to sing and dance and play instruments, and that's what they had to do. They did what they had to do.
I think that he really has a really interesting perspective on the idea of a minstrel show being a place for the Black performers. So yeah, I think that's really worthwhile to talk about that. Another kind of popular music show that doesn't have a lot of coherent plot is burlesque. We are not going to watch a video of burlesque. It is very sexualized with minimal costumes. That's all I'm going to say. But I want you to know that it exists and it is part of musical history, because as music theater history progresses, you will see that there is still an emphasis on beautiful women performing, but not the same as a burlesque show. So, want to put it out there, but we're not going to watch a video of burlesque. All right. Now, opera was also around in its various forms, and it, of course, had a little bit more in the way of plot. However, the music was still the most important thing. Remember, we get to a point where opera is now being enjoyed by everyone. We have kind of a cultural elitism around opera right now that did not really exist previously. So opera, especially Verismo, which we covered in the Romantic period, was as popular as, watching wrestling or, reality show like Survivor. Very, very popular. So I want you to understand that when I talk about opera and its history sort of pouring into musical theater, that opera was not just like, oh, only rich people go to see opera. That was not the case. And it isn't the case today, but I think sometimes people have that perception of opera. So now we also can get into operetta, which is kind of opera light, and generally the dialogue is spoken rather than sung. So remember, spoken dialogue. That's kind of an important thing for musical theater. So for those of you who might find opera daunting, where they sing all the plot points, this is much more accessible. And the plots were usually fun and maybe romantic and just enjoyable. So we watched a little bit of the Merry Widow before, and we're going to watch another scene, and this is the can-can, which pulls in some of that burlesque idea. It is beautiful women flashing their legs as they dance the can-can with their skirts. It is safe for us to watch. It is an operetta this was performed at the Met in New York City. But it does pull in some of that burlesque idea. So let's watch that. Okay. Now, in the 1920s, we get into a merging of traditions, right? We get these different musical traditions that I've talked about: vaudeville, burlesque, minstrel show, opera, operetta, starting to merge into new forms that had different elements of each. So, one of those is the musical revue. And this is the kind of show that was big on spectacle and music, but again, very small on plot. You had beautiful women dancing with their long legs, spectacular sets, and gorgeous costumes. Some of them even had nudity, right? There were some rated R musical revues back in the day. The most famous of these musical revues was called Follies, and they were produced by Florence Ziegfeld. And so they had comical skits and musical numbers, but they weren't necessarily connected to each other in any way, right? You could just have one skit after another. And the ideas of comedy and music were more important than the idea of a real plot. So we're going to watch a video from a movie about Ziegfeld Follies. And again, I think you will see how it kind of ties back into the things we talked about.
What can I say about Ziegfeld? Well, I can only tell you that as long as there's a dance, a song, a musical show, and it's good, somewhere around or in it is Ziegfeld. He never cared so much about villains, plots, stories. The Follies never had a story. The Ziegfeld Follies was itself a story of an era. If it was gay, bright, beautiful, that's how Ziggy wanted it. And oh, I almost forgot. The girls. Ziggy was a specialist at glorifying girls. That's one of the most important things about the Follies, you know. So, here's to the beautiful ladies. Here's to those wonderful girls. Adele's and Molly's, Lucille's and Polly's. You'll find them all in the Ziegfeld Follies. Here's to the silks and the satins. Here's to the diamonds and pearls. This is the mixture to start the picture, so bring on the beautiful girls. Here's to the silks and the satins. Here's to the diamonds and pearls. A sweet endeavor, a joy forever, so bring on the beautiful girl.
yap yap about glorifying dames leaves me like a cold potato. I'd much rather be with a handsome he, like Van Johnson, who's a real tomato. For a date with Fred McMurray, you can bet your life I'd hurry, and a guy like Misha Howard has me completely in his power. In fact, most any man I see is the only man for me. Whee! Bring on those wonderful men. Bring me an elegant guy, a soldier or sailor, a Gable or Taylor, a short or a tall one. I just want to call one my own private wonderful he. Bring what you can to me. Bring me a guy to pin up. Bring me a prince on a horse, a dark or a light one. I just want a sight one. Call me his missus and give with a kiss. I'm afraid I've a terrible yes for those wonderful M-E-N. Amor, amor. There must be someone for me, but what's he waiting for? No hope, no soap. If he don't appear, I fear I'm at the end of my rope. Oh, gonna bail away frail. Bring on a man from a cave, someone to relax with and pay income tax with. And though he's from hunger, I'm not getting younger, and I'd like to get on with my plan to glorify the American man. I know the men are cruel, but what's a gal to do? I'll get a man before I'm through. Hey, you in the third row. Bring on those wonderful men.
Okay, so Beautiful Girls, Ziegfeld Follies. It's a thing. So then we go into the musical comedy. This is similar to the musical review, except instead of just like skits with no combining plot, now we actually have some sort of dramatic plot to tie the musical numbers together. So the musical comedy would focus more on the star of the show rather than a huge spectacle of long-legged, beautiful women dancing in their gorgeous, glamorous costumes. The plot was still loose, not really heavy. The storyline kind of held things together and gave the stars an excuse to dance and sing. So we're going to take a look at a movie about a famous composer who was also a performer, who wrote some of our most famous patriotic music. His name is George M. Cohan, and this movie is called Yankee Doodle Dandy. So what we're seeing here is a movie about the composer who wrote this musical for himself to perform. And so you may recognize some of the patriotic music. It's just really, really fun and lighthearted and whimsical. So, not going to tell you much more about George M. Cohan because one of you may be assigned him as your composer, but we're going to watch this because this is a great musical comedy example.
On the boat. Now remember, Jones, watch for the skyrocket. If it goes off, you'll know that I've obtained certain papers from Ann Steed's cabin that'll prove you innocent of throwing the English Derby. It'll mean complete vindication. So stick here on the pier and watch for the skyrocket.
Thanks, pal. I'll be watching.
And don't worry, we still believe in you.
Thanks, kid. That'll help a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with that old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long.
We'll give your regards to Broadway. Remember you to Herald Square. We'll tell all the gang at 42nd Street that you will soon be there. We'll whisper of how you're yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. We'll give your regards to old Broadway and say that you'll be there. We'll whisper of how you're yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. We'll give your regards to old Broadway and say that you'll be there. To mingle with the old-time throng. We'll give your regards to old Broadway and say that you'll be there.
So I watched that movie when I was a teenager, but it was already an old movie. And I actually wrote a paper about George M. Cohan when I was in high school. So it's an old movie, but it's a really, if you like musical theater, it's really interesting to watch to get some knowledge about the life of this composer, who was awarded a medal from FDR, President Roosevelt, because of his contribution to our patriotic music. So composers began trying to meld musical comedy with operetta. So what that means, we have more solid plots, more skillful singing, but it's operatic. There is a lot of dancing, but it's not all ballet, right? It was entertaining and fun for everyone and very easily accessible to everyone. Now, we've talked previously and we watched 2 scenes from The Merry Widow, and it's important to know why that operetta is important, because it was really very popular operetta both in Europe and the United States. And it was so popular that women were actually buying the kind of hat called the Merry Widow that was featured in the operetta. The popularity of the Merry Widow set up an idea, a formula of escapism, exoticism, and nostalgia that lasted up to and through the Great Depression. So the scene that we're going to watch, third scene from The Merry Widow, which, as you can guess, is kind of an important part of the history of musical theater, is the love duet. And if you didn't know this was opera, you might think it was musical theater, right?
It's because
Yes.
It's because of the fatherland.
You also go to Maxine's every night. Because of the fatherland, I suppose.
Love unspoken, faith unbroken, all life through. Strings are playing, hear them saying, love me true. Now the echo answers, say you want me too. All the world's in love with love, and
I hear the music play. It carries me away. All sorrow will have flown when you are mine and mine alone. So that music seems to say, I'm still not saying anything. It's wanting you to know I love you so.
So how does it compare to something like Little Johnny Jones? Well, it's operatic singing, definitely more of a plot. Now back to the ideas of nostalgia and escapism and exoticism. Why would this be appealing to people during World War I and World War II and the Great Depression? Yeah? They wanted to escape the harsh realities of their lives at those times. Very dark times. I think you can definitely link it to the kind of escapism of finding entertaining videos on YouTube or watching cat videos. The date that I am recording this is July 24th of 2022. We have a very divided country. And if I'm going to go watch content online, a lot of times I just want to watch something that is going to be a way for me to put off my cares for an hour or two. Well, we had a whole period of time in our music history where musical theater was really about escapism and nostalgia and this idea of escaping to faraway places like exoticism. And remember we talked about exoticism in the Romantic period? Still a thing, right? So that is just a really, really important part of musical theater, especially up to this time. Then we get to Rodgers and Hammerstein. They were a composer and lyricist team, which means one of them wrote the music and the other wrote the lyrics. Pretty easy. And they hit the musical theater scene in a very big way with a musical called Oklahoma. So up to this point, a musical, right, would almost always start with a big production number featuring the beautiful women with the long legs. and all the exoticism and the escapism and the nostalgia and the romantic faraway places. Well, Oklahoma is, there is a romance, and it's sweet, but it's different. They started something different. So let's watch the first scene from Oklahoma and see what you think.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. Hey! All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. And tell her.
Nah, scared me to death.
Oh.
What you doing round here?
Well, I come a singing to you. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy it don't miss a tree. And an old weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful
Okay. If you want to know, yes, that's Hugh Jackman, very early in his career. He was a song and dance man, and he still is. As I record this, he is on Broadway right now doing The Music Man with Sutton Foster, who is a very famous musical theater singer, dancer herself. So yeah, that was Hugh Jackman. But the beginning of this show, totally different. It's a guy singing all by himself, right? And the audience is going, well, this is different. Remember we talked about Beethoven where he just surprised people? The audience is thinking, wait, something's different here. Something's very obviously different. Tells them that the drama is going to be important here. Remember we had that movement in opera called Verismo? We have sort of a similar movement going on now, beginning with this first scene in Oklahoma, right? Now, choreography and dance were still important, but more to carry the story forward rather than showing a big spectacle. So there is a scene in Oklahoma. It's the Dream Ballet. And it's this big, huge dream that's a ballet, but it's meant to carry the plot forward.
At the end of the Dream Ballet, when Laurie sees the villain kill her lover, which was just the epitome of horror. And I thought that was beautifully photographed, beautifully designed by Oliver Smith. It's done in slow motion, and I think it's very effective.
Men and women begin to enter and watch the fight. Judd spins Curly over his head and throws him to the floor. The young girl faints. Judd finishes off the unconscious Curly and carries Laurie out, high above his head like a conquering hero, to the shock and horror of the townspeople. Act 1 originally ended with the ballet, Judd carrying Laurie off in silhouette against a blood-red sky, leaving the audience somewhat in shock. To soften the bleak ending, the stage director, Ruben Mamoulian, suggested that it end with Laurie waking up, going off with Judd, and Curly is left alone.
Time to go to the party.
All right, you can see that that's not just your average can. If there's anything average about a can. So this musical was very successful, right? And it came at the right time. Perhaps if they'd written this musical 10 or 20 years before, people wouldn't have been interested. They wanted that escapism. But at this time, when it came out, it was very, very successful. And it secured the fame of Rodgers and Hammerstein as a lyricist and a composer. And so they worked on a lot of different projects together. I am not going to go into everything that Rodgers and Hammerstein did simply because one of you, perhaps, will be doing Rodgers and Hammerstein as your project, and so I don't want to spoil it. But I will say that, much like Beethoven, they were not interested in just entertainment for the sake of entertainment. So they had important things to teach you about racism and domestic abuse and slavery. And so in a time where we're dealing with a hyper woke culture, you might hear that and go, oh, really? I don't want to be preached at. These were not sort of hyper woke musicals at all. They were important themes that needed to be explored at that time in history. And much like Uncle Tom's Cabin, brought things into public awareness, which at its best, our entertainment, the arts, the performing arts, all through history, can be a catalyst for change. The Marriage of Figaro, which is a lighthearted opera, you think, but it was written at a time when a noble could have the right to sleep with a new bride before her husband did. That was the thing. And that was back in Mozart's time. It was a play, and then he made it into an opera. So yeah, very important things that needed to be addressed. So, Rodgers and Hammerstein were the ones who got out of the pure escapism and got into, let's talk about some things while we're being entertained, right? Really fun, entertaining numbers, but also some moral messages in there. So, kind of got away from me there, but I really wanted to get you to think about musical theater in its progression, because it really does start out as escapism and turns into something different. All right, from here, musicals are continuing to evolve and they are being made into films, right? So you can go watch a film of Oklahoma, of South Pacific. Those are Rodgers and Hammerstein. West Side Story. Oh, gosh, there's so many 50s musicals with Elvis. But they're the Pajama Game, Sound of Music, right? Films are being made all over the place from musicals, right? And some of them are lighthearted and fun in that idea of escapism and nostalgia and just fun. And some of them are more serious and attempt to deal with some different themes. So we are going to watch a few sequences from West Side Story, the original film, not the new film. And I don't remember if it won Best Picture, but I know one of them won Best Actor. And it's a really amazing musical that deals with prejudice between gangs of white and Puerto Rican teenagers and young adults. But it addresses it in song and dance. So we're going to watch the opening of West Side Story, and it's a long opening. And there's a whole lot that goes on that tells you the story before you ever get to the first spoken or sung word in the show. So the music is organized around the two groups, the Sharks, which is the Puerto Rican gang, and the Jets, which is the white gang. So the Sharks have a Latin American influence, the Jets have an urban jazz influence, all right? So in this opening scene, they are claiming their turf with their body movements. And as you watch it, you may feel that it's very unrealistic song and dance, but really just kind of look at how each group is establishing their territory. And also see if you can hear those elements that I was talking about of Latin American and then the sort of urban jazz. So we're going to watch this whole sequence. It's a long one, but I think it's worth it.
Watch this shot there. Hey, shoot, man, go. Hey, yeah.
Hey, dog skin, what you doing
Shit.
Hey, Chicky.
Hey.
Hey, hey, watch it, Jet Boy. Hey, Jet Boy. Jet. Come on. Beat it.
Chico! Ole, Chico! Ole!
Okay, here we go.
Jet! Hey, Jet!
Rocco, Indio! Let's jump him! Come on! Hey, Jet, come on! Follow me, Jet! Mira aquí! Mira! Mira!
Hey, Jet! Hey!
Jet, come on!
Hey, Jet!
Hello! Jet, come on, Julio! Let's go aquí! Hey, come on! Corre! Cosito!
Come on, boys, huh? Hey, come on,
Okay, so hopefully that piqued your interest maybe to go watch the original West Side Story. I watched it over and over again as a teenager. Now, you may want to watch the new version. You may want to watch the old version. That is up to you. But hopefully it's piqued your interest. All right, let's go on and talk about some film musicals. So we just watched West Side Story, which is a stage musical that was turned into a film musical. And we might see the actual musical being filmed, like a live performance, or movies that are adaptations of stage musicals. But we have musicals that were specifically written for films. In fact, some of them now have been turned back into stage musicals, which it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So we went through periods of great popularity for film musicals that were written specifically, like Elvis Presley was a big musical star, Frank Sinatra was a big musical star, Gene Kelly. And then we've gone through periods where people just thought they were silly, right? So there's this idea where people who watch a musical on film feel like there has to be a reality element, something to make sense of the fact that people are bursting into song, right? There's some different ways around this in some of these films that we've been talking about. So one of them is Singing in the Rain, and it's a very popular movie about the literally first movies with sound. I mean, this is a thing. The first talkies, when motion pictures went from silent to full sound and singing, right? And just think about that. Watching a movie with no sound. So some actors and actresses couldn't make the transition because their speaking voices weren't attractive. Imagine that you are a big silent film star and you talk like this, right? So you can't be a film star anymore unless it's for comedy.
Now, ta-te-ti-to-tu.
Ta-te-ti-to-tu.
No, Miss Lamont, round tones, round tones. Now let me hear you read your line.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
Can't.
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 So Singing in the Rain is about, it's a comedy set around that concept. And it has one of the most famous musical and dancing scenes with Gene Kelly doing Singing in the Rain. So let's watch it.
Good night, Kathy. See you tomorrow.
Good night, darling. Take care of that throat. You're a big singing star now, remember? This California dew is just a little heavier than usual tonight.
Really? From where I stand, the sun is shining all over the place.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. And the sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face. I walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain, dancing in the rain. I'm happy again. I'm singing and dancing in the rain. Dancing and singing in the rain.
Okay, so there is a fantastic scene from a fantastic movie. I highly recommend it if you like musical theater. Go watch the whole thing. It is still bright and refreshing and funny. Gosh, when was that movie made? When was Singing in the Rain made? 1952. Long time ago. Still as good as the day it was made. Going on, let's talk about a musical fantasy on film. A musical that is complete fantasy, so it doesn't matter that people are bursting into song, right? And The Wizard of Oz is a great example of this idea. So, fantastic characters singing in amazing costumes, and they're in a magical land. Nobody cares that they're singing because it's complete fantasy. Now, there's a more recent fantasy tale, and it has pop music elements from the 1980s. Let's see if anybody of you recognize this one.
The babe.
What babe?
Babe with the power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
What?
Remind me of the babe.
Quiet! A goblin babe.
Well.
I saw my baby crying hard as babe could cry. What could I do? My baby's love had gone and left my baby blue. Nobody knew what kind of magic spell to use.
Slime and snails,
or a puppy dog's tail.
Thunder or lightning.
And baby said,
Dance, magic dance, dance, magic dance. Jump, magic jump, jump, magic jump.
In 9 hours and 23 minutes, you'll be mine.
I saw my baby trying hard as babe could try. What could I do? My baby's fun had gone and left my baby blue. Nobody knew what kind of magic spell to use.
Thunder or lightning. Then baby said,
Dance, magic dance, dance, magic dance. Jump, magic jump, jump, magic jump. Dance, magic dance, dance, magic dance, dance, magic dance, dance, magic dance. Jump, magic jump, jump, magic jump. Ooh.
All right, we are going to wind up there, yes, with David Bowie in the movie Labyrinth, which is super fun film with a little bit of music in it from the 80s. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. So that's David Bowie. He was a huge, huge star. I'll say goodbye for today, and we'll be back to pick up right where we left off. So see you in the next video. Bye.